Have you ever said something to your cat, just casually, like you'd talk to a friend, and your cat looked straight at you and talked back? Maybe it was a quiet little chirp, maybe a full, drawn-out meow, maybe just a soft, almost whispered sound that felt like it meant something. And in that moment, you probably smiled and thought, did they just answer me? Here's the thing, they did, but not in the way most people think. Most cat owners brush this off as a cute quirk, a funny little habit, something adorable but ultimately meaningless. But something much deeper is happening here, and once you understand it, the way you look at your cat will never be quite the same. Because when your cat meows back at you, they're not just making noise. They're doing something that almost no other animal in history has ever done for any other species on the planet, and we're going to get into exactly what that is. Stay with me, because the reason behind this will genuinely move you. Let's start at the beginning because the science here is stunning. Adult cats in the wild almost never meow at each other. Kittens meow to their mothers when they're hungry, cold, or scared. But once a cat grows up, that behavior largely disappears between cats. Grown cats communicate through body language, scent, and subtle vocalizations, but full meowing, that's not really part of the adult cat vocabulary when it comes to other cats. So here's the question that researchers started asking. If adult cats don't meow at each other, why do they meow at us? The answer, when it finally came, was both simple and extraordinary. Cats developed their adult meow specifically to communicate with humans. Over thousands of years of living alongside people, cats essentially invented a language just for us. Not because they were trained to, not because we taught them, but because they figured out, on their own, that sound is the most effective way to get through to us. What most owners don't realize is that every cat's meow is slightly different, and it's designed for you. Studies have shown that cat owners can recognize their own cat's voice more accurately than the voice of a stranger's cat. Your cat's meow is, in a very real sense, a personalized signal, calibrated for your ears, evolved through your relationship together. So when you talk to your cat and they meow back, they're not randomly vocalizing. They're responding. They're engaging. They're using the one tool they developed entirely for the purpose of reaching you. But there's another layer to this that gets even more interesting. Think about what it actually takes for a cat to meow back at you. Your cat has to be paying attention. They have to hear you, process that you're directing communication at them, decide that a response is appropriate, and then produce one. That's not a reflex. That's a social decision. And when you think about it that way, a cat choosing to respond, it starts to say something profound about how your cat sees you. There's a concept in animal behavior called social referencing. It's when an animal looks to another individual to gauge how to respond to a situation. Human babies do it constantly. They look at their parents' faces before deciding whether something is scary or safe. For a long time, researchers thought only humans and maybe a few primates did this in any meaningful way. Then studies started looking at cats, and what they found was striking. Cats do socially reference their owners. When something unfamiliar appears, a strange object, an unusual sound, cats look at their owner's face. They're checking in, reading your cues, deciding how to feel based on how you seem to feel. That back and forth meowing, it's the vocal version of the same thing. Your cat is checking in with you, staying in the conversation, keeping the line of communication open. Something deeper is happening here than just noise. Your cat is treating you as a social partner, someone worth talking to, someone whose response matters. Now, here's the part that surprises most people. And honestly, it surprised me too. When your cat meows back at you, one of the most powerful things driving that behavior is emotional mirroring. Cats are far more tuned in to your emotional state than you might ever have guessed. Research from animal behavior scientists has shown that cats pick up on the tone, pitch, and rhythm of your voice. When you're calm and warm, your cat is more likely to respond with quiet, gentle meows. When you're excited, your cat's responses often become more animated. When you're upset or stressed, some cats go quiet, and others actually become more vocal, almost as if they're trying to get through to you. Your cat doesn't understand your words, but they understand something more primal than words. They understand your emotional frequency. So that soft, easy conversation you have with your cat at the end of a long day, the one where you tell them about your terrible meeting or your stressful commute, and they just sit there, blinking at you, occasionally offering a small sound in return. Your cat isn't just tolerating that. They're reading you. They're responding to you, to the texture of your voice, to the weight behind it. That's not nothing. That's connection. Real, honest, biological connection. And here is where it gets truly fascinating, because there's one more thing happening when your cat answers you, and it might be the most meaningful of all. Cats that meow back frequently and consistently at their owners are, according to behavioral research, typically cats with secure attachment bonds. They feel safe, they feel seen, and they've learned through repeated experience that talking to you works, that you respond, that the conversation goes both ways. In other words, your cat meows back at you because they trust you enough to try. Because every time you've spoken to them gently, every time you've responded to their sounds, every time you've looked at them and slowed down for just a moment, you've told them, without words, that this relationship is safe, that they can reach out, that you'll be there. Some cats who've had difficult past, who were abandoned or didn't have consistent human contact as kittens, are much more hesitant to vocalize. They don't know yet if the conversation is safe. They're still deciding whether to trust the channel. So when your cat looks at you and opens their mouth, when they let out that little sound that rises at the end, almost like a question, what they're really saying is, I feel close enough to you to try this. That's trust, in the only language they have for it. There's also something worth mentioning that most people overlook entirely. Cats are actually listening to the rhythm of your speech, your natural cadence, the way your sentences rise and fall. Your cat picks up on those patterns over time. Some cats have been observed mirroring the length of their owner's sentences. A long, rambling thought from you gets a longer, drawn-out meow. A short, clipped phrase gets a brief, punctuated response. It might sound too strange to believe, but think about the cats in your own life. Think about the conversations you've had. Have you ever noticed that it almost feels like they're timing their responses, like they're waiting for you to pause before they speak? That's not coincidence. That's your cat learning the shape of your communication, meeting you where you are. So what do you do with all of this? What does it mean for the way you actually live with your cat? It means that those conversations are the ones you might feel a little silly having, talking to your cat like they understand. Yeah, we're not silly at all. They are, in a very literal sense, one of the most important things you can do for your relationship with them. Because every time you talk to your cat and wait for a response, you're reinforcing that the channel is open. You're telling them that you're paying attention. You're deepening a bond that your cat is actively, consciously participating in. You don't need to use special words. You don't need to use a particular tone. Just talk. Talk to them in the morning. Narrate what you're doing. Say their name when you walk into a room. Ask them how they're feeling. And when they answer, even if it's just a tiny, sleepy blink followed by a half-hearted little sound, answer back. That's the conversation. That's the whole relationship compressed into 5 seconds. Here's what I want you to hold on to after this video. Your cat didn't have to talk to you. Biologically, they didn't need to. They could have stayed silent, communicated purely through body language, lived their lives without ever developing a vocal vocabulary for humans. But they did. Over centuries, in homes and farms and cities all over the world, cats quietly developed something remarkable. A voice for us. A sound. They make only for us. A language built from scratch, not because it was programmed into them, but because we mattered enough to them to make it worth the effort. And every time your cat meows back at you, every time they tilt their head and look at you and decide that yes, this moment is worth responding to, they're continuing a conversation that has been going on for thousands of years, not between humans and animals, between you and them, between two individuals who found each other, figured out how to talk and kept showing up. So the next time your cat answers you, stop for a second. Don't just smile and move on. Listen, really listen. Because what you're hearing isn't just a sound. It's your cat saying, in the only way they know how, I'm here, I see you, I chose you. And honestly, that's everything. If this made you see your cat a little differently today, share it with someone who loves their cat. And leave a comment below. I want to know, what does your cat's meow actually sound like? Describe it. I read every single one.